make sure President Biden is on the November ballot. Plus, former President Donald Trump's hush money trial will soon be in the hands of jurors as closing arguments begin. And why this summer might be the best time to buy a car. Newswatch starts right now. After months of turmoil, the Ohio Senate has introduced a bill paving the way for President Biden to appear on the state's November ballot. Good evening, I'm Donovan Varney, and welcome to Newswatch. During the first day of a special session called by Governor DeWine, the Ohio Senate is considering a bill adjusting the deadline to certify presidential candidates. The saga began in April after Secretary of State Frank LaRose notified Ohio Democrats that Biden would be absent from the ballot because the Democratic National Convention is after Ohio's legislative deadline to certify candidates. Under Ohio law, a political party must certify the names of presidential and vice presidential candidates at least 90 days before Election Day, which would fall 2 weeks before the DNC. Discussion on the proposal will continue tomorrow. This was the first governor-called special session since 2004. While Ohio lawmakers look to find a solution within legislation, nationally, Democrats are discussing a workaround to ensure Biden meets the existing deadline to be on the state ballot. The Democratic National Committee is planning to hold a virtual roll call to nominate Biden to satisfy that deadline. It's a similar process to one that was used during the pandemic in 2020. Early certification deadlines have been resolved without much fanfare in the past. This year, Alabama moved its deadline to after the convention, and Washington, D.C. agreed to accept a provisional certification. Over 2,000 Ohioans have died from an overdose in the last year. Naloxone is a reversal medication that can be administered by anyone who comes across a person who is experiencing an overdose of opioids or heroin. A harm reduction clinic at the Athens City County Health Department is giving free naloxone to anyone every Wednesday from 12:30 to 3 p.m. If you are interested in learning how to administer the medication, you can schedule an appointment by calling the number on your screen. The health department is advising interested people to plan for traffic delays because of the ongoing construction on West Union Street. A surprising statistic for Athens residents, the city is one of the fastest growing in the country. That's according to new numbers from the U.S. Census Bureau. They created a list of the fastest growing cities in the country, and Athens made it into the 15th spot. They say Athens' population grew by 8.6% between July 1st, 2022 and July 1st, 2023. Columbus and Cincinnati populations both grew by 0.5%, while Canton and Parma saw the largest population loss in the state.
For today in weather, you can see currently out there 74 degrees, those overcast skies. We've been having those clouds throughout the day today, and really they're going to be continuing into tonight. Currently out there 74. We're going to be feeling those mid 70s all throughout today, but until tomorrow, we're going to be feeling a little bit chillier than that. Those clouds that we've been experiencing all day today, they have been giving some rain to parts of northern southeast Ohio. There was a little bit of blips here in Athens, but other than that, most of that rain was off to the side. It really didn't affect us too much today, but we will be seeing that going into tomorrow. For those temperatures out there in southeast Ohio currently, most of us still in those mid to low 70s. There are some parts of southeast Ohio that are in those almost 80 degrees. You can see there in Huntington at 79. But for most of us, as you go a little bit more north, they are trying to cool down for the rest of the night. And we'll be continuing to see that cool down as we go into the rest of the day. We can see those little bits of rain that we've been having today. Well, that's not going to stop just yet. We're going to be having a lot more rain coming in looking at tomorrow, and I'll be getting into that in my full forecast. Let's take it back over to Donovan.
Thanks, Isabel. In addition to the Biden proposal, the Republican majority in the Ohio Senate has advanced a bill that would limit the power common pleas judges have in putting state laws on pause during active legislation. Senators added the last-minute provision to an unrelated proposal, House Bill 305, which deals with electronic court filings. The newly amended bill would now allow the state to appeal court orders pausing state laws. This bill comes just days after a Franklin County judge put a pause on House Bill 68, which would ban gender-affirming care for transgender youth. Activists are asking for a federal ruling on a lawsuit against an Ohio bill that limits voters with disabilities. Eligible disabled voters in need of returning their absentee ballot can only call on a specific list of people, according to House Bill 458. This list includes parents, grandparents, siblings, aunt or uncle, and niece or nephew. However, the list misses out on people that many voters rely on, including grandchildren, friends, caregivers, or professional aides. The law makes it a fourth-degree felony for anyone not on the list to return a voter's ballot. The League of Women's Voters and the American Civil Liberty Unions of Ohio have filed for a summary of judgment in the lawsuit, asking the judge to strike the law. Coming up, Trump's hush money trial enters its closing arguments. And as storms ravage the central United States, can we expect to see any of that weather?
I'll be getting into just how much of this severe storms that we're seeing out in the Central Plains, how much we're going to be getting that here next on Newswatch.
So I want to know where it all came from.
On Finding Your Roots, Danielle Brooks
That blew my mind.
and Dionne Warwick.
I come from a singing family.
From bondage to battle.
What do you make of him?
It changes the game for my family.
And freedom gained at a cost.
Did you know you had such deep roots there?
No, it was never, ever mentioned or talked about.
Finding Your Roots.
Tonight at 8 on WOUB.
We must save our oceans, and we must also feed ourselves. Thankfully, there are people trying to do both.
There's no reason why more people shouldn't have access.
This kind of creative farming is extremely important.
I want you to fish, but I want you to fish smart.
Sustainability is to extend life, not just of the fish, but of us.
Regardless of your stage of life, whether you're starting your first job, getting the keys to a new home, or enjoying retirement, it's never too early or too late to create an estate plan to care for loved ones and support the causes that are meaningful to you. WOUB Public Media is pleased to have partnered with Giving Dogs, a free resource for building an estate plan that fits your needs and protects the people and causes you care about. Visit WOUB.org and click the support tab to get started today.
In Pompeii, we can see the culture of the people who lived here.
C'è una novità. Col carboncino.
Gladiatori.
We would never have known of this incredible match that took place.
L'altare dove veniva fatto il sacrificio è.
Anybody who was still alive would have seen a cloud coming down the volcano.
They are worried about surviving this eruption.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
Former President Donald Trump's criminal trial will soon be in the hands of jurors. Trump faces 34 counts of falsifying business records and has pleaded not guilty. Tuesday started with closing arguments. Julia Benbrook is in downtown Manhattan with the details.
Former President Donald Trump is accused of taking part in an illegal conspiracy to undermine the integrity of the 2016 election and an unlawful plan to suppress negative information, which included concealing a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels to cover up an alleged affair. Trump denies the affair and has pleaded not guilty. Attorneys presented closing arguments on Tuesday.
You can win your case on closing argument. I've seen it done time and time again.
The defense is arguing that Trump wasn't involved in the hush money scheme and is trying to undermine the testimony of Trump's ex-attorney and star prosecution witness Michael Cohen, calling it, quote, lies.
The prosecution will not only be able to tell its tale, which it must do, of course, succinctly and clearly, but it will also be able to rebut all of the defense points that it's able to.
The prosecution is trying to corroborate Cohen's testimony by tying together all the text messages, phone logs, allegedly falsified documents, and witness testimony.
Ultimately, a trial is all about storytelling for the jury. There are only 12 opinions that matter.
After closing arguments, the judge delivers his instructions, a critical point in the case when the jury learns how to apply the law and weigh conflicting testimony and different kinds of evidence. The jury deliberation process could take days, even weeks. Now, it's important to emphasize the unprecedented nature of this case. Trump is the first former president to face criminal charges and is seeking another 4 years in the White House. Reporting in Manhattan, I'm Julia Benbrook.
While Ohio lawmakers determine if Biden will be on this fall's ballot, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign submitted its signatures to qualify for New York's ballot. Kennedy said in a social media post his campaign submitted more than 135,000 signatures to the state's election office in Albany. That's 3 times what is required to make the Empire State's ballot. The move takes him closer to gaining ballot access in one of the most challenging states for independent candidates to appear on the ballot. Kennedy has officially gained ballot access in 7 states and has enough signatures to be on the ballot in 9 others, including Ohio. Pope Francis has apologized following reports that he used a homophobic slur during a meeting with Italian bishops. The Vatican issued a statement today saying in part, quote, "The Pope never intended to offend or express himself in homophobic terms, and he extends his apologies to those who were offended by the use of the term." The remarks reportedly took place during proposals from the Italian bishops to amend guidelines on candidates' seminaries. In 2016, Pope Francis upheld a ruling that men who are actively gay or have homosexual tendencies cannot be ordained. 2 years later, he told Italian bishops not to accept gay candidates for priesthood. It got even more difficult to gain aid in Gaza over the weekend. On Sunday, rough seas in the Mediterranean tore apart U.S. military-built pier designed to get humanitarian aid into the region. The $320 million project has only been in operation since May 17th, but in that time, 820 metric tons of critical aid for Palestinians passed through it. The part of the pier that tore off consists of a parking area that connects to a causeway where aid can be driven into Gaza. It must be reconnected before the pier can be used again. One of the largest public school districts in the Dallas area closed Tuesday, and hundreds of thousands of customers are without power after another wave of savage storms hit the region. Laura Aguirre brings us more.
Parts of the central U.S. once again in the crosshairs of savage, destructive storms. Torrential rain and powerful winds whipped through the Dallas, Texas area early Tuesday, bringing wind gusts over 80 miles an hour and large hail to some areas. The widespread damage to some homes and businesses on par with that suffered over the past weekend from deadly tornadoes across that same region.
I have never prayed so hard in my whole life.
Texas was among the hardest hit with several fatalities and many survivors still reeling from other difficult losses.
We've lost cows, we've lost pigs, we lost one of our dogs. My husband's lost his horse.
Tuesday's new wave of storms also striking on primary election day in Texas, leaving more than a third of one county's polling places in the dark.
I signed a declaration of disaster as we have hundreds of thousands of customers without power.
More than 750,000 customers as tracked by PowerOutage.us, about half of those in Dallas County.
This, unfortunately, will be a multi-day power outage situation.
Critical infrastructure like hospitals and emergency response services will be prioritized for service before residential homes. The severe weather threat continues for Texas and parts of Oklahoma and Louisiana into the evening hours. Another 9 million people face a similar risk in the High Plains Wednesday, from northern Colorado up into North Dakota. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Sweltering heat is also punishing many Texans today. Heat advisories are in place across western Texas, Brewster County, and the Davis Mountains and their foothills. Temperatures could reach as high as 110 degrees in the area, according to the National Weather Service. Isabel, can we expect to see any of the impacts of the severe weather?
You could see off to our friends in Texas just how much they're getting right now. They were seeing pretty severe thunderstorm risk. They were even in tornado watches for today in parts of the upper part of Texas. But for here in Athens, we might be seeing its effects going into this weekend. We do have a very slight chance of seeing those effects, but they still are in play looking in these next few days. You can see in these next couple of days, though, this system that's coming from the north that's going to be affecting us more imminently than what's happening off to our friends over there. You can see that for today, those temperatures right now in southeast Ohio, those are in those mid-70s still currently, and that rain is just starting to come in for the rest of the night, cooling us down to that overnight low of 53. That 50% chance of thunderstorms is going to be hitting us after that midnight hour. Those thunderstorms are from that system that I was just showing you that are going to be affecting us from today until going into tomorrow. We'll be seeing tomorrow that 90% chance of showers. Most of those showers are going to be hitting us in those very early AM hours, going to have that lingering chance of rain throughout the day, and then more at this time tomorrow. We're going to be seeing some rain for us in Athens. Temperature for tomorrow of 70 on that cooler side, and you can see that low only hitting 46. We're going to be on that cooler side looking for these next couple of days. You can see how severe these storms are going to be. They're just in those marginal storm risks. That means that we're just going to see a little bit of thunder associated, nothing having too much wind or too much severe capabilities to it. It really is just going to damper our Wednesday. Looking on that 12 hours ahead, that's whenever this cold front is going to be starting to make its way in, and we're going to see this high pressure system starting to see us after. So we'll have this rain, and then it'll finally clear up for us for the rest of the week. But for 12 hours ahead, tomorrow morning, we're going to be seeing just a little bit of southeast Ohio starting to get that rain. And then looking at this time tomorrow, that's whenever most of us are going to be in those rain chances. Looking on Thursday morning, that's whenever we're going to be seeing it kind of making its way out. And then once we hit 48 hours ahead, that's whenever we're really clearing up. That's whenever we're also going to be seeing if we really are going to be affected by this storm going into the rest of our weekend. But we will be in the clear for Thursday looking into Friday. We're also going to be looking at this warm up associated with this warm front that is coming across the Midwest. That is going to be heating us up back to those original temperatures, not so much as those low 90s, but we are going to be feeling a lot more summer-like looking into the rest of the week. You can see that tomorrow we're going to have that 90% chance of showers like I was talking about. Then once we hit Thursday, we're going to be cooling down, but we are going to be on that sunny side. So hopefully you'll be able to have that umbrella for tomorrow, but after that, you won't need it until we're looking at about Saturday, Sunday, Monday for, again, those chance of storms. They still are on that lower side of possibility, so you're definitely going to be wanting to stick with us to see if we're going to need that umbrella for our weekend. But you can see throughout that we're going to be warming up once again. So hopefully those will make their way out so then we don't get that rain for another beautiful weekend here in Southeast Ohio. Let's take it back to Donovan.
Thanks, Isabel. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, has a new security board. OpenAI announced a new committee that will make recommendations about safety and security. CEO Sam Altman will lead the new committee, along with board chair Brett Taylor and board member Nicole Seligman. This comes just weeks after the company dissolved a team focused on AI safety. It also follows the high-profile exits of two of the team's leaders who complained tensions, quote, reached a breaking point. In addition to his new role within OpenAI, Altman has vowed to give away most of his wealth. Altman and his husband have signed the Giving Pledge, which is a charity that encourages the ultra-rich to donate their wealth to philanthropic causes. In their letter, the pair credited the hard work and generosity of those that built the scaffolding of society that allowed them to get to where they're at. Bloomberg reports that Altman is worth at least $2 billion, with much of his wealth drawn up from startup investments. Next, why this summer might be the best time to buy a car. And for the latest from Newswatch, follow us on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
The Ohio Art Corridor is a destination experience. We would like this to be the largest outdoor art gallery in the world.
Progress is all about taking the lessons of the past and doing better. So I would hope that now that we know better, we will do better.
The legacy that you leave is people think of you and what touches their heart to the point that they remember.
The bridge was acclaimed at the time of being an engineering marvel.
We got land granted to us in Ohio. Great opportunity, let's go. How would you know you got here? It was just sheer determination and patience and just hard, back-breaking work.
Thursday at 10 on WOUB. For more than 70 years, WOUB Public Media has been the place where people in our region turn to learn how stories of the past ignite the imagination of the future. It's where information, entertainment, and education work together to inform, enlighten, and inspire generations. It's the place where the community gathers to hear and see our world in new and innovative ways. WOUB, the public media you trust that's worthy of your support.
Israel did not start this war. Israel did not want this war, but Israel will win this war.
In Israel, the question is about the war. In the United States, the debate is about the peace.
We're facing an inflection point in history.
The Palestinian issue has been put back on the international agenda in ways that we haven't seen in many, many years.
With all this death and destruction, it's hard not to look back and say, where did the road turn? The second guessing is haunting.
Tonight at 10 on WOUB.
For the sixth time in the past year, home prices across the U.S. reached a record high. That's according to the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index. It found home prices across the country jumped 6.5% in March from a year earlier. This is the sixth time the index has reached a record high over the past year. According to the report, there's a strong demand for housing in San Diego, New York, Cleveland, and Los Angeles. The high prices combined with the lack of supply and elevated mortgage rates has resulted in a tough housing market, especially for first-time buyers. Despite rising home price rates, Americans are feeling better about the economy for the first time since January. That's partly due to improved perceptions of the job market. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index for this month climbed to a reading of 102. This is up from 97.5 in April. The improvement was broad, with the survey showing improved attitudes about the economy among Americans of all age groups. The new data comes after the consumer confidence declined in each of the prior 3 months. This summer's auto deals could finally bring relief for consumers who have been holding off to buy a new car. Karen Kafa is in Washington with the details on what industry experts are watching.
This summer could finally be a good time to buy a new car.
One of the good news items for consumers is that inventory is abundant.
Supply chain disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic crunched new auto inventories and sent new car prices skyrocketing. But according to Cox Automotive, dealers' new vehicle inventory is the highest it's been since late in 2020. And as dealers look to clear lots for next year's models in the fall, Brian Moody, senior editor at Auto Trader, says consumers have more options.
There's a little bit more new cars than used cars, but the reason that's good for consumers is because it offers the choice, the vehicle they want. And also when it comes to new cars, that means that there is the potential for greater incentives depending on which car you're shopping for.
0% financing deals for buyers with good credit are more common this year than last, according to Edmunds. Edmunds also finds average discounts on 2023 and 2024 model year vehicles more in line with pre-COVID prior year model discounts. But Brian Moody says deals will vary across makes, models, and location depending on what's on dealers' lots.
Research the incentives in your area because they can vary from zip code to zip code, and make sure that the car that you're looking for has the discount that you want. And if not, then go find one that does have a discount.
The best deals are likely to be had on slower selling models like sedans and hatchbacks, Moody says, rather than popular models like compact SUVs. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Wireless provider T-Mobile is taking over most of U.S. Cellular in a deal worth nearly $4.5 billion. The package includes cash and will assume up to $2 billion of debt. T-Mobile will acquire U.S. Cellular's stores and its customers, along with about 30% of U.S. Cellular's wireless spectrum. T-Mobile said it plans to improve coverage in rural areas and for U.S. Cellular customers across the country. U.S. Cellular customers will be able to keep their current plans or switch to a T-Mobile plan. The companies expect the deal to close in mid-2025. Still ahead, these kids may not be old enough to vote for the president, but they can sure vote on their favorite sweet treats. But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Grantchester on Masterpiece Mystery has been a viewer favourite for years. When you pair a cranky detective with a motorcycle-riding vicar, you get the perfect team to tackle murder, mystery and mayhem in a quaint 1950s English village. Join us for a behind-the-scenes look at these appealing sleuths and this delightful program in Grantchester, investigating life's mysteries.
Sunday at 7:30 on WOUB.
I am Professor Jasper Tempest.
There have been 4 unexplained sudden deaths in the southeast.
Professor?
Professor? Professor?
My name...
I know who you are.
Jasper has been taken to prison.
What was your plan?
Truth and justice are not always compatible.
We're just gonna let people die.
There are moves afoot to cut you loose. We shall have to wait and see.
Ken Burns and his brilliant team at Florentine Films has taken on one of the pillars of American culture, country music.
It's a great Russian novel of a story. You meet layer upon layer of characters, generation upon generation of families.
Ken is a great unifier. It's not just about the music, it is about who we are as Americans.
Please join me, Kathy Mattea, for Ken Burns Country Music.
Monday at 9:30 on WOUB.
Let's make the most of this summer.
There's about to be a whole lot of love in this kitchen.
Smells good in here.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Disco started with parties.
Good times, good feeling.
It brings people joy.
I don't need a detective. The baker will do.
This is what we've got, and we can make it ours. It's so good.
It's good practice for when I'm an adult.
These kids weren't voting for political office positions. They were voting on their favorite ice cream flavors. The contest to pick the overall favorite started with 8 different ice cream flavors and was narrowed down to 4 earlier this year. Those flavors were cookies and cream, vanilla, chocolate, and bubblegum. The city of Henderson said the results of the vote would be posted on social media. The top 2 flavors will move on to the general election in November. Okay, Isabel, bubblegum? I don't know about that being in the top 4. It seems a little weird for me, but...
It really does. I feel like, I mean, it is younger kids, bubblegum up there, but it is a weird one to make it to at least the top 4.
Yeah, I know. I think chocolate, cookies and cream, and vanilla are solid top 3, but
for sure.
Bubblegum just kind of threw me off there. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I feel like with like chocolate and vanilla, they seem pretty basic, and then cookies and cream have a little throw in there. But for ice cream weather, we're looking at it for tonight. We're having some 75 here in Athens. They're in those mid 70s, but looking into these next couple days, not really quite ice cream weather. We're going to be seeing tonight that low of 53, that 50% chance of thunderstorms. That's going to be hitting us after that midnight hour that we're going to be seeing those chance of thunderstorms, and that's going to be following us into tomorrow. That 90% chance of showers, that's going to be hitting us mostly in that early AM hour, and then it's going to be more likely to happen at this time tomorrow. We're going to be seeing that 90% chance of showers really kicking at this time tomorrow, so make sure that you have that umbrella with you. Only that high of about 70 degrees and that low for tomorrow night of 46. That's definitely cooler than we've been having these last couple days. You can see that rain is really heading in up from the north, and it's going to be having just a little bit of impact on us. It's going to be those isolated chances of storms, so make sure you always have that umbrella with you because you never really know it. It's going to be hitting exactly right where you are. Looking at the rest of the week, we're sunny until this weekend, and then we're going to be hit with those mostly cloudy skies once again next Tuesday.
Well, that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thank you for watching. For Isabel Isco, I'm Donovan Varney. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at woub.org or follow us on social media. Have a great night.